Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our first virtual event. I say our first virtual event, meaning Missy Gosnell and I from Region 3. Our virtual event of I Will Be Your Voice, Stories of Homelessness and Hope. This presentation will be recorded. We will go over just a couple of housekeeping items before we begin. Chat will only be viewed by panelists. We encourage you to ask any questions you may have in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. All cameras and mics of participants will be off during the first hour while the play is running. After the presentation of the play, we will have discussions with our panelists consisting of 2 education liaisons and 2 youth from the Youth Action Board in Fayetteville County. Good morning, everybody. My name is Sonia Pitsy. I am the Region 3 coordinator for the Education for Children and Youth Experiencing Homelessness. It's a little early in the morning for this, but I'm still going to do it. In Region 3, we call it ECYEH. There's a couple of reasons why I say that. One, it makes people laugh. This is a conversation that isn't a funny conversation, but we want people to remember the conversation. So if they're going to remember that I'm Sonia and she says this weird thing and it's talking about homelessness, then it's remembered. And when I speak with families or students and they hear me say, heck yeah, I can get you a backpack, it breaks the ice a little bit with them. And they're more willing and open to speaking with me, and it removes that little bit of a barrier that may have existed in the beginning. So that's how we say it in Region 3. We cover 8 counties in South Central Pennsylvania. In Pennsylvania, there are 8 regional coordinators so that the entire state of Pennsylvania is covered. November is Hunger and Homeless Awareness Month nationally. And 8 years ago, we decided that we wanted to create a week that emphasized the importance of education in the life of a student experiencing homelessness. Too often, education gets pushed aside for the more pressing needs of food, clothing, and shelter, understandably. So we wanted to make the awareness for education so that folks wouldn't have to worry about learning and making sure that their students are in school. We hope you leave today's presentation knowing how you can assist a student who may be experiencing homelessness and how school can be their most consistent, safe, and stable place to be. 2 years ago, an original play was written to help spread awareness about the true life experiences and stories of students experiencing homelessness. It was presented live and was an instant hit, showcasing voices of our students. I'm always asked to produce a student who is currently experiencing homelessness if I want Awareness Week to have more press. The press would always tell me I needed a hook. I thought the hook was trying to raise awareness about these students who are experiencing homelessness, but I didn't want to ask my students who were currently experiencing homelessness. I didn't want them to feel that they alone had to be the current face of homelessness while they were experiencing it and while they were in school. School's already tough, and I didn't want them to have to be part of that and possibly go through things that we don't know what the aftermath would be. So in saying no to the press, I then created a hashtag called I Will Be Your Voice. And in our ECYEH YouTube channel, we have videos of folks reading stories that our students wrote. So they're true stories. And they wrote them for others to read so that we could be their voices. This play stemmed from those videos and that hashtag. So I invite you now to sit back and listen to these true stories.
140. That's how many households HUD said were homeless in Cumberland County last year. 199 people. 165 grown-ups, 34 kids. Wait, hold up, only 34 kids? There are way more of us than that. There are a lot of homeless kids who are invisible when you look at us by the numbers. HUD only counts people who are staying in shelters or in cars and other places they consider unfit for human habitation. They don't count anyone who's staying with friends or in a motel who weren't around on that one night in January when they were counting. So there are a lot of kids like me who are homeless, but not homeless enough to count. In fact, the Department of Education, who also keeps statistics on us homeless kids, thinks that there are more than 36,000 homeless kids across Pennsylvania. Good Lord. It makes us sound like a math problem. If HUD says there are 34 homeless kids in Cumberland County, and you had all the ones who are living with friends, staying in a motel, or hiding in January, how many homeless kids do you really have? Looking at the numbers is important so we can tell how many of us there are. But behind every number is a person. Your kids with hopes and dreams and unique personalities and talents, and more fears and challenges than most folks will ever have. We live in the margins, uncounted, unseen, forgotten. The stories you're about to hear are true. Each kid who was interviewed was asked what we wanted people to know about our lives and our experience being homeless. What do we want people to know? We want to be accepted for who we are. We wish people knew how we got here. We just want someone to believe us when we tell them about our lives. We shouldn't know what homeless feels like. We're not a math problem. We're people. We miss having tacos for dinner. We feel invisible. We need to know that we matter.
Children experiencing homelessness don't fit society's stereotypical images of the homeless population. In fact, many teachers may not even realize that they have a student without a home in their classroom until the stress of being homeless bubbles over and causes a student to have a catastrophic reaction to their situation. This is the story of one such reaction.
My name is Kira. I'm in the first grade. Every day after school, I go to the library with my mama. I like school. I'm learning how to read and spell. Today, my teacher taught me that there was an animal in the ocean called a whale. They're bigger than my school bus. I like school. The lunch lady's really nice. Sometimes she gives me 2 milks at breakfast or extra tater tots at lunch. She knows I like the burnt ones. I like gym class too. We're practicing climbing a big rope. If you can get the whole entire way up to the top, you get a prize. I didn't get too far up this time. I'm gonna try again next week. We went on a field trip to the fire station. I told my teacher I didn't want to go. She said I had to. When we got to the firehouse, I didn't want to go in. My teacher made me. My tummy felt bad. The firemen saw me and asked me how I was doing. I didn't mean to, but I threw up on their feet. Teacher brought me back to the school. She called my mama. Teacher sat in the office with me. She said she was sorry. She didn't know about the fire. I said I was sorry for throwing up. Mama came to school. Her and teacher talked a long time. This other lady came in and talked too. She said sometimes people throw up when they're scared or sad. I get scared a lot now. I have dreams that firemen pick me up and carry me out of school, like when our trailer was on fire. I never get to go back to school again. The nice lady drove us to Aunt Rosie's apartment. We stay there now. She gave me a teddy bear. She told me, don't worry. I can keep going to school. That made my tummy feel a little better.
Domestic violence can be defined as physical, sexual, or psychological harm caused by a current or former partner or spouse, as well as by other family members or by a partner's family members. Domestic violence can take many forms, including physical injuries, abuse, and rape, or mental cruelty in the form of bullying, insults, or harassment. Violence against women and children by fathers and husbands is increasingly becoming a major cause of homelessness. Women usually make the decision to leave their abusive partners when the violence escalates and the need to protect their children intensifies. School can provide a safe place for children to begin to grapple with the situations they have escaped or are escaping.
I'm Alexi. I'm 8. Today at school, Mr. Rice made us write a story about what power we wanted if we became a superhero. I want the power to turn invisible, like Harry Potter. Want to hear the story I wrote? If I was invisible, I could go anywhere I want, and nobody could see me. If I was invisible, I would go to a mattress store and jump on all the beds. Then I would lie down on the softest one and sleep all night. If I was invisible, I would go to the grocery store and eat as much as I want. If I was invisible, nobody would yell at me for being in the way. If I was invisible, I would share my invisibility cloak with my brother, so he could be invisible too. Mr. Rice said my story was very creative. He hung it up on the wall. I told him I really like Harry Potter. When I was little, me and my brother played Harry Potter a lot. That's when we lived in Montana. We lived in a little house by a big lake. Daddy lived with us, and Mom, and Jerome. He's my brother. Jerome read Harry Potter books to me in our closet under the stairs. I love Jerome. He's a good brother. Sometimes we had to play invisibility cloak in the closet. We had to sit there, very quiet, like we were invisible. Mom helped us play by locking the closet door. She would do the secret knock when it was safe not to be invisible anymore. Being invisible is a very useful superpower. When Mom and Jerome and me moved away from Montana, we played invisibility cloak. She gave us a superhero mission. We woke up in the middle of the night and had to be invisible. We put our stuff in the car and even made the car invisible by driving with the lights on until we were on the big street. She said, "Mission accomplished." We were good superheroes. Now we live with Aunt Karen in Pennsylvania. She has a lot of kids. Sometimes I feel kind of squished in her apartment. I try to be invisible there too. The lady who helped Mom get me and Jerome into school, she read my story and said that going invisible is a very practical superpower. I like her. She got me a Harry Potter backpack and gave Jerome a Half-Blood Prince and the Deathly Hallows, so we can see what happens to Harry if he defeats Voldemort. Being invisible is the best superpower. It is fun and useful, even when you're just pretending.
Families with children are amongst the fastest growing segments of the homeless population in the U.S. today. Thanks to the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act, kids experiencing homelessness have the right to go to school. It also means that there are now liaisons in each school who are trained to help these children navigate being homeless while still maintaining their education. Liaisons are sometimes the first to notice when something is out of the ordinary, because they are on the lookout for signs that something is amiss. These liaisons look for red flags. If a child is hungry or consistently late, if a child doesn't have uniforms or their clothes aren't clean. If a child unexpectedly starts lashing out, anything that could trigger them to think, maybe this child is going through something. At only 10 years old, Layla is facing challenges most of us could not imagine. When she lashed out about an assignment, her situation came to light.
It's almost Thanksgiving. Everybody at school is talking about break and eating Thanksgiving dinner and watching the parade on TV. I'm not looking forward to break. There's no place to watch the parade at the homeless shelter. I don't know what I'll have for Thanksgiving dinner. You don't get to pick what you eat at the Salvation Army. I know what break's going to be like. It is going to suck. We're going to wake up on our mats on the floor of the church before the sun's even up. We're going to pack up all our stuff in our backpacks and walk across town in the cold over to the Sally for breakfast. Then we're going to walk back through town over to the day center. If we're lucky, we'll get to stay inside, but not if it's more than 30 degrees out. I don't know why it's called a day center if we're not allowed to be there during the day. If the shelter lady makes us all get out, we'll probably walk around town some more, which will be awesome if it's not raining or cold. Or we'll go to the library if Mom's fines are paid down enough that they don't yell at us for being there. Then we'll go back to the Sally for dinner. Something gross for sure. It usually is. I keep telling them about these things called pizza and tacos, but it's usually chili. If we're lucky, there will be donated desserts we can look through. They're good for the walk back to the shelter. They let us hang out with our parents in the day center until it's time for us to get on the bus and go back to the church for the night. Break is 5 days long. It is gonna suck. I never liked school until we ended up at the shelter. I thought it was dumb. But now, I don't know. I don't mind it so much. I like getting breakfast and lunch there. It's pretty good. And my friends are there. But you know what the best part of school is? It's the same temperature all year long. My teacher is pretty cool too. I didn't want to tell her that we were at the shelter, but I kind of had to when she made us write an essay about what we were thankful for. I must have looked some kind of way when she gave us the assignment because she told me to stay after and then asked me if I was okay. I am not okay. It is hard living in the shelter. I told her that I was not thankful for sleeping on the floor or eating with a bunch of strangers at the Sally every day. I yelled at her, and then I cried so hard I couldn't stop. That was like 2 weeks ago. My teacher was really cool about me yelling at her and freaking out about the essay. I didn't get in trouble or anything. Instead of going off on me, she hooked my mom and me up with some people who could help us. There's this one guy I've been talking to the last couple of days. I don't really know if he's a teacher or what, but he makes me laugh. And he keeps telling me that this won't be forever. The other day, he brought me a brand new backpack that's way bigger than my old one because I told him I had to carry all my stuff with me. He's nice. He even talked to me about that stupid essay. Life is basically crap right now, but he told me that I could keep it really generic and talk about being thankful for my friends and my new backpack. I think I'll write that I'm grateful for him. I have until the end of break to write it. Maybe I'll start it later tonight once we get to the church where we'll sleep. I can't do it now though. It's time to walk to the Sally for more chili.
For a child experiencing homelessness, life can feel overwhelming with their surroundings in a continual state of flux. In the middle of all the uncertainties that come with being homeless, school often becomes their constant, the one thing that never changes. When their lives are out of control, they cling to schedules, routine, rules, anything that is reliable and predictable. For this child, math became his security, his comfort, his foundation.
Hi, I'm Gabe. I like math. When you're poor, It's important to be good at math. Like, really important. I can do estimates and rounding in my head now. That's important for when I have to figure out how much time it takes to walk to the shopping center where I get my bus to school. I need to get there before everyone else. I don't tell my friends I'm homeless. They might make fun of me. We stay in the efficiency motel by the Dollar General. We have a bedroom with a little kitchen in it. It costs $41 a night. 41 times 30 is 1,230. It's hard to be in school and be homeless. I like going to school because it's the same as when we had a house, but sometimes I get nervous now. My brain has too much else in it to stay focused, except during math. Math is my favorite because the answers is always the answers, no matter what. I can do all kinds of math in my head now. Sometimes I pretend that the grocery shopping is like a word problem. At the beginning of the month, a family gets $548 in food stamps. How much food can mom buy every week before the money runs out? 548 divided by 4 is 137. 137 divided by 3 people is $45.66. I would round up, but you can't round up money. Mom is good at trying to make our money last. Every week, she buys a big roll of ground turkey. It's cheaper than beef. She uses half to make tacos and the other half for spaghetti sauce or burgers. Sometimes I want 4 tacos, but math says that I can only have 2, so everyone gets some. Math has the answers, but the answer is only good when the numbers are big enough. Last week, this lady I've seen at school came to the motel. She brought us a bunch of food and talked to my mom about school stuff. Then she talked to me and my sister. She asked me what I've learned so far this year. I told her that I learned that math is important. I told her about counting tacos and estimating and rounding to get to the bus, and that numbers make me feel safe because they don't change. She didn't think it was weird at all. She agreed with me. She said she likes numbers too. 5 and 10 are her favorites. She's a good listener. My favorite math to do is addition. I have a Pringles can in my backpack. I keep all the change I find in it. When it's full, I'm going to give it to my mom to help us get a new house. So far, I have 51 cents. It isn't a lot yet, but every time I put a penny into it, it's one more than I had. I like math. It solves problems. Maybe I can use it to solve ours.
Illness and medical bills were linked to at least 62% of all personal bankruptcies in 2017. Based on the current bankruptcy filing rate, medical bankruptcies will total 866,000 and involve 2.25 million Americans this year, about 1 person every 15 seconds. Most medically bankrupt families were middle class before they suffered financial setbacks. 60% of them had at least one adult in the family who attended college, and 66% had owned a home before their bankruptcy. These families often became homeless, heaping trauma on children who have already lived through or watched a family member live through a medical crisis. These children shouldn't have to grow up in fear and silence. Maddie has lost a lot in her short life. She struggles to talk about what happened and what she's feeling, but thanks to a patient, gentle advocate, she is starting to open up.
12-year-olds shouldn't know what the word foreclosure means, or what DPIG stands for, or what hospice does. I shouldn't know about reoccurrence rates or what happens when a tumor presses too hard on the optic nerve, or the fact that people's feet turn purple right before they die. I shouldn't know where every shelter and soup kitchen is in town. I shouldn't know about homeless liaisons and the fact that it took a federal law to keep kids like me in school. I shouldn't know about any of this. My sister shouldn't have gotten cancer. My parents shouldn't have lost our house because my sister was sick. My baby brother shouldn't have to live in Ohio with our grandparents. My family shouldn't have to live in a hotel room. My mom shouldn't have to cry herself to sleep every night, my dad shouldn't have to work 3 jobs. And my sister should still be here. We should be in our bedroom watching TikToks and doing our homework. My brother should be downstairs playing with his cards. My mom should be singing in the kitchen as she's making supper. My dad should be messing with his tools in the garage. But none of that is happening. We're not there. She's not here. And she isn't coming back. That's what I should have told the lady at school today when she asked me what she should know about my family. I know she just wanted to help, but I was too mad to answer her. I sat there and cried instead. I do a lot of that now, crying, but not so much talking lately. She didn't seem to mind though. She told me that sometimes crying is more important than talking. I shouldn't have to talk to the lady at school because I shouldn't be homeless. There are a lot of shouldn'ts. I shouldn't. But maybe talking to her is something I should.
Major disruptions to a family's home environment will inevitably take their toll on every aspect of a family's life, including the education of the children in the family. Even when the change is a planned move from one permanent home to another and children are prepared for the disruption, the transition can still be stressful. For children whose families find themselves facing homelessness, the loss of their home and often their possessions is more sudden, more traumatic. The family is thrust into a situation that is chaotic, unstable, and often frightening. The experience of losing a stable home can be devastating for children. It takes significant effort to keep pace educationally with their peers while they are navigating both the big feelings that come with being homeless and their less than ideal living and sleeping situations. Luckily for Caitlin, her parents, her advocate, and the school gym teacher all stepped in to make the situation a little more bearable.
My dad used to work at the tire factory in town. We had a way cute apartment. It had a deck, a big window in the living room, and a kitchen with a real diner booth. We used to play diner with my mom all the time. She would make these menus on printer paper with different stuff we could choose from, and we would sit there like grown-ups and pick what we would have for dinner. It was basically all stuff my mom was thinking about cooking anyways, but it made us feel really special when she'd write it down in her little notepad and then talk to us while she was cooking it. We lived in that apartment so long that I don't really remember ever living anywhere else. My twin sisters had never lived anywhere else. They're younger than me. This one day last spring, I came home from school and my mom and dad were sitting in our diner booth. They were both crying. I had never seen my mom or my dad cry before. I didn't know what was going on, so I waited for my sisters out on the steps and then took them up to my room to give mom and dad some space. I thought maybe somebody died. We were up in my room for like 3 hours. I helped Sayla and Sienna with their homework and then did mine while they played games on my phone. Finally, mom and dad came upstairs and I found out what they were so upset about. The tire factory was closing down. My dad didn't have a job anymore, and worse, the people who owned the apartment complex were selling it to the college down the street. We all had to move. Long story short, we couldn't find another apartment. Nobody wanted to rent to us because dad was unemployed, and besides, all the apartments in our neighborhood are too expensive now. We ended up selling most of our stuff because mom said it'd be too expensive to store it. We had a massive yard sale. I tried not to cry, but when I saw our diner booth drive off in some stranger's pickup truck, I lost it. This whole thing was so unfair. We spent the summer living in a tent at the state park campground. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't home either. Then, when the campground closed for the season, we moved into our minivan. Do you know what it's like to live in a minivan? It sucks. Think about riding somewhere for 4 hours with your 6-year-old twin sisters and your parents and your stuff. Now think about having to sleep in it and do your homework and find things to wear the next day. My mom and dad both got a job out at the warehouse on the edge of town. They both got hired for the 3rd shift, so every night we drive to their work parking lot, they put us to bed in the back of the van, and then go inside to work. In the morning, when they get off, they wake us up and we get ready for school at the gas station. Even though we live in our van, our parents make sure we read every night before bed. They tell us how important it is to keep doing normal stuff like reading, and that even though we live in our van, we still need to get good grades and succeed in school. They are really serious about that school stuff. Every week, they meet up with this woman who, honestly, has helped us a lot. She hooked us up with breakfast and lunch at school. I got the gym teacher to let us come in early and take showers and stuff before anyone else gets there. He lets us wash our clothes in the washer he uses for sports uniforms. He's really cool and promised not to tell any of the other kids that we're homeless. He and the liaison lady are friends, and he said anybody who's a friend of hers is a friend of his. My mom told us last night that we should be getting a new apartment soon. She said it's smaller than our last one, and I'll have to share a room with the twins, but I don't even care. It's bigger than a van. I just want a home again.
Unaccompanied homeless youth are young people experiencing homelessness who are not in the physical custody of a parent or guardian. There are as many reasons a teenager may be alone as there are homeless teenagers. Often, though, youth homelessness is rooted in family conflict. Sibling violence is a very real cause of homelessness for unaccompanied teens. When other arrangements can't be made, teens can end up on the streets, alone, hungry, and fending for themselves. Cheyenne was only 15 years old when the violence she faced at home became unbearable, and she found herself homeless.
Me and my brothers didn't get along. They bullied me, tormented me. I didn't understand why. When I was little, they dressed me up like a boy because nobody wants a sister. They cut off all my hair, called me fat, said I was ugly. It was awful. Then I became a teenager, and the bullying, it got physical. My brothers beat the crap out of me every single day. I didn't want to go to sleep ever because I never knew what they were going to do. I didn't feel safe at home. My mom didn't want me anymore. She said I was a nuisance. So she sent me to live with my uncle. For a while, stuff was okay. Then, out of nowhere, my uncle got evicted. And he didn't want me either. I couldn't go home. So I sat in the park and cried. I was hungry. I didn't have any money for food. I'm not proud of it, but I stole from the grocery store. I was so hungry. Nobody caught me, but I felt so guilty about it that I threw up anyway. On the 4th night I was in the park, I saw one of my teachers out jogging. I pulled my hoodie over my face so she couldn't tell it was me, but she recognized me anyhow. Probably because I only have one hoodie and I wear it all the time. I have never been so embarrassed in my life. She sat on the bench with me while I cried. When it felt like I didn't have any tears left, she pulled out her phone. I didn't say anything, but on the inside, I was freaking out. Oh God, don't call the cops. Please don't call the cops. She didn't call the cops. She called someone else. A little bit later, this someone else came and sat with us on the bench. I've never met this woman before, but my teacher said something about her helping kids like me. To be honest, I was too tired and hungry and embarrassed to really hear what she was saying. All I know is that I was glad she was there. I was even more glad when I woke up the next morning in a bed at the youth shelter, and there was a note with her phone number on it asking me to call her so we could talk about what happened and what to do next. For the first time in a long time, I felt safe.
Estimates show that LGBTQ youth comprise up to 40% of the total unaccompanied homeless youth, even though they only make up 5 to 10% of the overall youth population. There are many reasons why LGBTQ youth may face homelessness, but the most critical factors are focused on family units. The True Colors Fund notes that family conflict is the most common cause of all youth homelessness, but instances of parental rejection are far more significant amongst LGBTQ populations. Half of all teens get a negative reaction from their parents when they come out to them, and more than 1 in 4 are forced to leave their homes. Ellie is one of those teens.
I was kicked out of my house because I'm gay. My parents are real winners. The summer between my sophomore and junior year of high school, they sent me to this Pray the Gay Away camp. Not sure how that's still a thing, but it is. 6 weeks in Arkansas with the hillbillies, mosquitoes, and these pastors who screamed scriptures at us while we did push-ups and other exercises they thought would man us up. Clearly all the screaming in scripture didn't work. Still super gay. But now I'm gay with a sexy boyfriend named CJ. I'm at a camp. His parents are nuts too. I knew my parents were going to be pissed that their stupid camp didn't magically make me like girls. So I decided to just put myself back in the closet until I could get out of school and move. So when my parents met me at the airport, I pronounced myself cured, straight as an arrow. Hallelujah. I played their little game for most of junior year, went to church every Sunday, took my best friend Emma to homecoming because, shocker, she's a girl, watched football with my dad, you know, straight people stuff. But right before spring break, I screwed up. I left my phone in my jeans pocket and my mom found texts between me and CJ. That was it. World War III. I didn't think it was possible to get a 4-hour lecture on all the ways why I was a disappointment to my parents, but that's exactly what happened. I'm a disappointment. I'm going to hell. I'm a waste of their money. OMG, gay camp is expensive, Elliot. I'm a tool of Satan. I'm going to end up with AIDS. Oh, and my personal favorite. We don't want any faggots in our family. Fun night. And then the moment came that I knew my parents were actually assholes. My dad went in the garage and pulled out one of the big backpacks we use when we go camping on the Appalachian Trail. He threw it at me and told me to get out. I was like, wait, what? He was totally serious. I could take whatever fit in that backpack and nothing else. You've got to be kidding me. Normal parents don't just throw their kids out for stupid crap like being gay, right? Then I remember that normal parents and my parents don't belong in the same sentence. I'm so glad that I've been obsessed with Marie Kondo because I was able to fit most of my clothes and important stuff in that backpack. So I'm standing on the porch with my stuff in a backpack, like I'm going on some screwed up camping trip. And I said to my dad, well, where am I supposed to go? He told me he didn't care. And he shut the door in my face. I went to my friend Devin's house, and the next morning his mom called the school to tell him what happened and see if they could help. Yeah, that went well. All the school did was call my parents and asked if I was allowed to go home. Of course, my crazy parents said yes. I just needed to follow the rules. Yeah, well, one of the rules is don't be gay, and you're super gay. It's kind of impossible. The school was also pretty freaking impossible. They said that Devin lived outside the district, so I couldn't keep coming here if I was going to live with him. They didn't understand why I couldn't just go home. They didn't get that I just wanted to keep coming to school and for life to be normal. I like school. I have friends who know the real me and this awesome music teacher who treats me more like her kid than my actual parents. I told my teacher at school I kept saying I wasn't homeless, even though all my crap was in a backpack and I was sleeping on Devin's couch. My teacher said, "You have to meet this woman I know and tell her your story." I did meet her, and she told me that I was something called McKinney-Vento eligible. What does that even mean? Are they gay too? She said the first thing it meant was the school couldn't say I wasn't homeless anymore. That woman marched herself right down to the office and told them exactly what was what. Oh my God, it was the best. I would not want to be on her bad side. But I'm so happy she's on mine.
Many homeless youth and young adults have experienced significant trauma before becoming homeless and are particularly vulnerable both physically and emotionally. Research shows that 20 to 40% of unaccompanied homeless youth were sexually abused in their homes, while 40 to 60% were abused physically. When home is the place you fear the most, school can be a haven where the nightmares can't invade, where adults care and do their best to propel these hurting children forward while helping them begin to heal from the deep wounds they live with every day.
Hi, I'm Ben, 17 years old, and I've been sexually abused since basically forever. I know the first question you want to ask is, why am I not in foster care? That's everyone's first question. The safe answer is, it's none of your business. But the real answer is that when your dad's a cop and your mom's on city council, it's hard to get people to believe that they're anything less than perfect. They know just what to say and how to act, so they look great. And I look like a liar. They love to call me their troubled kid. Of course, I'm troubled. Who wouldn't be after living in hell for 17 years? So I left. I didn't want anybody to know why. Nobody would believe me anyways. So I just put my stuff in my backpack and walked out the door. I heard about this abandoned building downtown where the homeless people would stay. Figured I'm homeless now, so I won't lie, I was scared. I'd never talked to an actual homeless person before. But I figured what was ever in that building couldn't be any worse than what was at home. I found a corner where nobody could sneak on me from behind. I hate when people do that. I stayed awake that whole first night. I started talking to this guy who lived in the building, and he told me I could stay there, but I had to stay in my corner and not touch anybody else's stuff. I didn't leave for a week. Once I realized that nobody was going to come look for me, I decided that I wanted to go back to school. This is going to sound weird, but I missed it. At school, every day is the same. You know what to expect. There aren't any surprises. I'm a senior. I only have 9 weeks to go until graduation, and I can't stop going now when I'm this close to being done. But I also don't want anybody to know that I'm living in an abandoned building. To be honest, it's kind of embarrassing. I faked a note from my parents saying that I was sick and went back to class. After about 3 days, I met a lady who does outreach. I'd seen her before, but I just thought she was a teacher. People call her the homeless lady for school. Weird, but whatever. Another kid who was staying in the building told me about her. She said she'd introduce me to a counselor at the school who could get me some help. I really didn't want anybody to know, but she's kind of pushy in a helpful way. Homeless lady and the counselor let me stay in the office while they made some calls. I told them that I was staying at the building and I was absolutely not going back to my parents ever again. So here I am, 9 weeks from graduation, sleeping in a building everyone thinks is abandoned, and still going to school. I'm going to graduate, no matter what. Being homeless is rough, but it's better than being at my parents' house.
More than 1 million public school students in the United States have no room to call their own, no desk to do their homework, no bed to rely on at night. State data collection shows the number of homeless students has doubled in the past decade, and those numbers continue to rise. These students have to overcome seemingly insurmountable odds just to stay in school, let alone graduate. These next 3 students, Selena, Aman, and Tehran, have made it to graduation and beyond, all while navigating homelessness. They need resources, they need advocates, but most of all, they need to know that they matter.
I walked across the stage today to get my high school diploma. I can't even express what that means. Blood, sweat, and tears brought me here. I'm not at the top of my class, but I'm not at the bottom either. I live in a tent. I'm 17. I left home because I didn't want to be around drugs and abuse. Yeah, I'd rather live in a tent. I left in February. For a while, I lived in an abandoned building with 3 other people. I won't say why they were there. It's not my story to tell. I will say that I'm glad they were there with me during the cold months while I was figuring out how to finish school without dropping out. I was introduced to someone who helped me with school stuff. This person became my champion. I was absent a lot because reasons, not all related to where I was staying at night. Sometimes I was just a jerk. This person didn't care. They went to meetings for me to keep me at my academic level to graduate on time. I was at the point where I stopped caring. I could have dropped out, but she wouldn't let me. I needed to finish school. I needed to see my worth. I needed to know I was someone who could contribute to the world. That's what I was told over and over by this person. Even on the days I wasn't kind to her. My school didn't support me. Some people did, but not the ones who were in my building. Lies were being spread. I'm not perfect, but I'm not a thug either. I managed to do my schoolwork, do the volunteer work I was told I had to do every week. Yes, that's right. I had to volunteer every week, 10 hours a week at a soup kitchen. But hey, I got to eat every day. Hot food in cold weather, cold drinks in hot weather. It was all right. I managed to do everything I was told to do, but the school said that I still couldn't walk the stage because I had too many absences. One of my teachers said, at least you'll end up with a diploma. This person I told you about, she said, you will walk the stage. You deserve to walk the stage. Man, I don't know what she did to the principal, but the next day he turned around and told me that I would get to walk. Us graduates were told we could invite 2 people to watch us walk. People were gripe saying, only 2. I was okay with it. I didn't have anyone. But wait, yes I did. I invited this person to be my person. My person watched me walk the stage. She yelled louder than anyone else. I know because I only heard her. I didn't even mind that she was screaming her head off for me. I was smiling like I have never smiled. I was posing for pictures with friends and their parents. I kept smiling while my person took me out to dinner. I stayed in my cap and gown the whole time. People stopped to say congratulations. I smiled while we went to the grocery store to get some things for the weekend. I wore my cap and gown in the grocery store. I'm still smiling, even after my person dropped me off at my tent. Today, I walked the stage to get my high school diploma. Today, I know I am worthy.
I finished my first semester of college today. I have a 3.8 GPA. It's a lot harder than high school, but I'm going to do my best to keep my A average all the way through. I've had straight A's since middle school, and I owe it to my mom and my advocate and myself to stay focused while I'm here at Cornell. Besides, I'm here on an academic scholarship, so I need to do the best I can. This opportunity, it isn't lost on me. This is my chance. If someone had told me 10 years ago that I'd be here at Cornell making almost straight A's and working at Starbucks, I would have laughed. I mean, I was only 8, but even then, I knew that kids who lived in dumpy motel rooms with their crazy mothers didn't go to college. We just don't. That's where I grew up. Well, that's where I spent the most time in one place. Room 208 at the Cornerbrook Motel on Route 12, just outside of town. Just me, my mom, and the bedbugs. Where was my dad? Who knows? Probably getting high somewhere. I haven't seen him since I was 6. Mom, she was there. She never left the hotel room if she could help it. When I got older, I learned that it was called schizophrenia. But when I was little, I just thought that she was batshit crazy. She wouldn't take her medicine, so she didn't function. For as long as I could remember, we were homeless. One of my first memories is waking up on a mat in the shelter with an old lady's feet in my face. We couch surfed for a while. Sounds way cooler than it actually is. We ran out of friends really fast. Once we ended up sleeping on a towel that my mom laid down on the floor in our friend's garage. I guess I'm lucky that I was so young when we were that bad off. I mostly just remember being scared and tired a lot. By the time I was 8, I was really tired of feeling scared and tired. The librarian told my mom about a church program that would put us up in a hotel. For once, Mom actually followed through and made an appointment with them. We lived in the hotel for 5 years. The other people who lived there were scary, but it was better than a towel on the floor of a garage. At first, Mom was still a mess, but then once school began, we started, how'd she used to say it? Getting services. A social worker came to visit us once a month. She convinced Mom to let a case manager visit every week to talk about parenting and other stuff. Mom started going to a therapist and a doctor. She started taking her meds, and things got a little better. When I was 13, Mom finally got her disability. I didn't understand what that meant at the time, but I knew it made all of the social workers and case managers happy. And right before 7th grade, we moved into a real apartment. That would be a great place to end the story, wouldn't it? With us in an apartment and everything perfect. Too bad that isn't what happened. We were only in that apartment for 6 months before Mom started hearing voices again. The next thing I knew, we were in another motel, this time on the other side of town. I was so upset. I finally had friends at school. I was making good grades. I was heartbroken at the thought of having to change schools in the middle of the year. What I didn't know was that there was a law about kids in my situation. To make a long story short, I met this woman whose job was to make sure that kids like me didn't have to change schools or keep starting over just because we didn't have an actual home. She called herself my advocate. This woman became like a second mom to me. We lived in 6 different motels from the time I was 13 until I was a senior. I managed to keep my grades up because everyone told me that education was my ticket out, and I do not want to live in a motel ever again. The day I left for Cornell, Mom was arguing with her case manager about moving into supportive housing. I felt heavy and kind of guilty for leaving her. She always asks how I'm doing when I call her on Sunday nights. Before we hang up, she tells me the same thing that she's told me every day since I was little: to watch out for men and keep getting good grades. I will, Mom. I will.
You ever watch The Golden Girls? I love that show. Sophia's my favorite. Picture it, Pennsylvania, November 2017. I'm 17 years old and on my own. I haven't lived with my parents for a few years now. Been couch surfing off and on, camping out a lot. Last winter, I stayed in this old factory for a minute until the cops came and tossed me out at like 3 a.m. That was special. I'll admit it. I didn't have my crap together back then. I was a mess. I wasn't homeless because I was a mess. Nah. I was homeless because my mom didn't want me. I was a mess because me and homeless will screw with your head. I don't know when it happened exactly, but I just stopped giving a shit. Crap. It wasn't an overnight thing, but I just kind of gave up. It's hard to imagine a future when you barely have a present. School? Nah. Wasn't a priority when you're trying to survive. I about dropped out. Then she showed up. I don't know who told her about me or why she cared, but she dogged me all year long. Kept bringing me supplies. Pizza. Now, I didn't trust her at first, but then I decided she was alright. She always smiled when I said that. You alright, pizza lady. She smiled like she got an award or something. She helped me get my crap together. Pizza lady doesn't like it when I swear. I'm trying not to. My old folks don't like it either. You're wondering who my old folks are, aren't you? Now that's the story. So pizza lady gets me back on track in school. Make sure I have somewhere safe to sleep, enough food and supplies. And that woman tells me I need to start volunteering. Say what? I'm like, is this lady serious? She was so serious. Couple days later, she starts bringing me another pizza and tells me she has this new partnership and I needed to start going there to do my hours. Damn. Crap. I was hoping she forgot. Okay. So I ask her where this place is and what I'd be doing. Pizza lady just smiles her big grin and says, "You're going to be working at the senior center." And I'm standing there like, huh? I look at pizza lady standing there smiling like she had the best idea ever. And I decide that she has lost her dang mind. Those old white people, they're going to hate me. They're going to go straight 1960s and chase me out the building with their walkers. I look at pizza lady again. She is still smiling like, hello? Pizza lady, have you seen me? Do you forget I'm Black? Do you want me to go to work with a bunch of old conservative white people? Pizza lady just stood there with that damn darn grin on her face and says, yes, yes, I do. I think you would be great. What the hell? Heck, what the heck? So next day, she meets me at the senior center. I had no idea what to expect. But after I got over myself, it was I started spending more time at the center, more hours than Pizza Lady made me volunteer. But she didn't need to know that. Every week, she'd bring me a pizza and ask me how it was going. I just grin at her and say, it's all right, and then laugh when she looked like she didn't believe me. It was all right there. Truth, I loved it. Those old folks, we have a lot in common. A lot of them don't have families who don't want them either. You know what happened at that senior center? They didn't run me out. I ended up with 3 dozen grandparents. They wanted me there. I volunteered all winter. The director kept my secret about being homeless. She even let me sleep in the center when the snowstorms hit. On Martin Luther King Day, I had off school, so I decided to spend a day at the center with my fam. Pizza lady said she was going to show up too and check on me. Man, she was nervous. I guess telling her it's all right all the time had her a little freaked out. We walked in and she's asking me, is there anything I need to know? Like I was hiding something. Calm down, Pizza Lady. It's all right. Got into the center and Pizza Lady saw what was up. I was saying hi to my fam, giving high fives and fist bumps like I always do. Ernie doing our special handshake, you know. Getting there is always the best part of the day. I check in with everybody, see how they're doing. They tell me what's going on. Violet has physical therapy, Fred's dog is sick, and Gloria's kids haven't visited in a month. You know, stuff that's important to them. They need to know they're important. Everybody needs to know that they're important, that somebody wants them around. That's why Pizza Lady made me volunteer. I didn't get it at first, but that was it. I needed to remember that I mattered, that other people matter, that we need each other. That's why I'm in school now at Penn State Harrisburg. I'm working on my recreational therapy degree so I can run the senior center someday. Pizza Lady taught me that. She's all right.
Sonia Pitts, a longtime advocate with PA Education for Children and Youth Experiencing Homelessness, says that making a change in the lives of homeless students is as simple as making a ripple on the water. Anyone can be a ripple of hope in a child's life. Our ripples grow into waves, and with enough waves, we can have a tsunami of success. Often the first ripple of hope a child in a housing crisis experiences are those made by the tireless liaisons, social workers, ECYEH regional coordinators, and others who work every day to bring hope to those students who feel invisible and forgotten. In our stories, Tehran called her the pizza lady. Gabe learned that she likes 5s and 10s. Ben called her the homeless lady for school. Selena called her my champion. For Aman, she was an advocate and a mentor. Elliot learned that she's feisty and she'll stand up for her students. Leela's advocate made her laugh, something she didn't get to do very often. Alexi said his person would fly if she was a superhero. He's already convinced she's already his hero. Kira's tummy feels better when they talk. Caitlin's liaison helped her and her sisters feel normal, even when life was nuts. She helped Cheyenne feel safe. Maddie realized she needed her. So did I. We all did.
Okay. Welcome back. Had some great comments throughout the playing of this play. I would like to thank Chris Kapp, who is currently on here, for writing the original play and taking the voices of our youth and putting them into the stories. One of the stories was actually written by the student, and Chris allowed the words to be in that person's words completely. The rest are through interviews and experiences that we've shared. So before we begin to our panelists, again, I would like to invite folks, if you have questions, to put it into our question and answer pane. And we are going to go on to our panelists. I'd like to first welcome our liaisons, Kate Diorio, who is the Director of Pupil Services at Red Line Area School District. She also serves as the District McKinney-Vento Education Liaison. Joining her in the liaison capacity is Matt Labuda, who is the Assistant to the Superintendent for Administrative Services at Northern York County School District. I am going to start by asking them some questions before we go on to speaking and introducing you to our youth. So, Kate, Matt, this is open format. First of all, just give us a little information about yourselves and then I'll ask a question. How about that? So whoever wants to go first. And you'll have to unmute yourself.
Kate, you want to go first?
Sure. My name is Kate Diorio. I am the Director of Pupil Services here in Red Lion. I wear a lot of hats, but as Sonia said, one of those hats is as the homeless liaison for students in Red Lion. I know people are joining us from across the state. So just to give you a little information about Red Lion is located in southern York County. We very close to the Maryland border. We have seen some tremendous changes in our district in the past 10 years that I have been here. I think most significant is the poverty. In probably about 10 years, we have gone from a 12% poverty rate to a 44% poverty rate. Our poverty is rural poverty. And so one of our greatest barriers with rural poverty is access to resources. Although we sit in York County, York City rather, where many of these resources are located, is only about 20 to 40 minutes, depending where you are in the district. Some of our families don't have transportation, or they just don't travel into the city. So we have to pull together a lot of resources within our own school district, utilizing agencies, but also we have a great network of homeless liaisons in York County. And I give a lot of credit for that to Sonia and Melissa for creating that sense of community. I'm very fortunate that I can call anybody in any district and run things by them and, problem solve and get support. So in that regard, I truly feel that I am not alone in this situation, and I'm grateful for that.
Thanks, Kate. Yeah, Matt Labuda. As Sonia had mentioned, I'm assistant to the superintendent at the Northern York County School District. We're on the very northern tip of York County, contiguous with Cumberland County. This is my 26th year in education, my 4th year as the homeless and foster liaison. And so I'm learning every day. I would agree with Kate that we have an incredible team, incredible network. When we have questions, we all pull together. And if the group can't answer it, then Sonia or Missy can. And so it's a very rewarding hat that Kate and I wear because we get to help. We get to help kids. And so many other administrative hats we wear sometimes are separated from that function. but it's a great way for us to stay connected and to help kids. So I enjoy my role.
Thank you for sharing that, you two. So a couple of questions. What's one thing that you wish people knew about being an education liaison? Start with you, Matt. Sorry, Kate.
What's one thing, Sonia, you said that you wish people knew about being a homeless liaison?
Yes, that you would wish people knew about being a liaison.
It's not as complicated to help as one might think. You just have to, love kids, have an open mind, and ensure that as many people as possible within your organization are aware of who you are, so that if they need anything or if they see anything, they can reach out to you. We're simply a conduit, and then we go to our resources and our regional coordinators and our state liaisons. And so I guess, if there was just one thing, it would be it's not hard to help. You just need to put yourself out there, and then depend on your team to help provide for the students who need us most.
Thank you, Matt. Kate?
I'm going to piggyback on something that Matt said when he first started. He said it's not complicated. And what I mean by that is it's not complicated to determine, in some cases, that a child is experiencing homelessness. And I want to clarify, because sometimes it is complicated. It's very situational. And that is one of the challenges of our job. But I say it's not complicated in the sense that I have to suspend all judgment when it comes to evaluating whether a child is homeless. I need to determine if there was an event and if they have adequate, stable nighttime housing. That is it. So many times I have to educate community members, colleagues, even my peers about homelessness, because there will be a comment like, well, they're living in a really nice house, they're just doubled up. Yes, that is true. And it is a nice house, but yet they are still homeless. Or I hear comments like, well, I know that the family just went on a vacation 2 weeks ago. That does not matter. That has nothing to do with my determination. Or I hear things like, well, the kid has great shoes and a cell phone. That information is superfluous to me. It means absolutely nothing when I determine who is a homeless liaison. So that is one thing I wish people knew. That one thing that I have to do, and it's been a process in my own evolution as a homeless liaison, is that I must 100% suspend judgment on family situations, because I don't know what their situation is. And I certainly wouldn't want anybody putting my family situation under a microscope and making judgments.
I agree. I agree with that, Kate. I think the hardest thing, and we've talked about this, I feel everywhere we go, is that people like to put their own judgments, morals, and opinions into a family situation or a student situation, and that is not our job. Our job is to make sure that we follow the McKinney-Vento Act and to determine whether this student is McKinney-Vento eligible and get them educated. It has nothing to do with any of the things that you do not feel they should have. They don't need to look poor or look a certain way, because that is what your bias is. So I appreciate both of you sharing those viewpoints. I really liked, Matt, that you said you have to have an open mind and a love of children. I really feel that you liaisons this is such a small part of what you do and how many hats you wear. Yet, as we know, one student can take up hours of your time and days of your time. We know this because of conversations we share, or just because we also are in the field. Luckily, we are full-time, but you are not. And so having as many people know in your school, in your community as possible is key. And that is one of the things that we want to share about this week, is that McKinney-Vento exists and education is important. And these kids can go to school in their same school. And that's why these education liaisons are so important. So thank you for sharing that.
Sonia, if I could just add one other thing here. As Kate talked about the determination process, she's just spot on. It's so important. But at the end of the day, sometimes we determine a student isn't McKinney-Vento, but we've still learned about needs, and we still then can help the kid. So sometimes it's through that investigation and that empathy that we then find out that we can still help, even if, and there are still resources outside of McKinney-Vento within districts and communities. And so, it helps so many kids, not just those who qualify as a McKinney-Vento, but McKinney-Vento is obviously a very powerful and supportive code that we're happy we have.
Well, and we don't know how many times learning about their situation may have prevented them from going into McKinney-Vento, because you have been able to link them with other resources. So I think that that's a really important connection that you just mentioned. Thank you. So what's one thing you want people to understand about students who are experiencing homelessness, their families, the students, the families, and just homelessness in general? What would you want folks who are listening and watching this to know?
I think one thing that I would want people to know is that no individual chooses to be homeless. It is an event that could happen to any one of us. If my house burns down tomorrow, then I am a homeless person. And so it does not know income levels. Homelessness does not know any socioeconomic determination. It can happen at any time to anyone. And I also want people to know that children who are experiencing homelessness, and I'm very, very careful to always say children experiencing homelessness, or at least I try. So if I mess up, please call me on it. They're not homeless children. They're experiencing homelessness. It's not a label that they will have forever. I have children currently, well, actually young adults who are in college, who I help them with their financial aid forms, because they are determined to not live the life that they're in. And I don't want to say it's their parents' fault. It's a situational thing that has happened to them. So I think that's really important to understand. It is truly a situational period of a person's time, and with the right support, children can get out of that situation. Families can get out of the situation. This morning, actually yesterday, I had the opportunity to present at the Capitol, and I met a woman there who is Ms. Universe. Last time I met her in 2019, she was Ms. Pennsylvania. Now she's Ms. Universe. So she's had quite the trajectory. But she's been kind of swimming in my brain all night. Like, wow, how did this woman go from homelessness to an attorney with her own law practice and to be on the pageant circuit and be Ms. Universe? Like that's incredible. That's a lot packed into one life. And, her name is Nikki Johnson Houston. And I found an amazing video about just the grit and resilience and the support she had from her grandmother and teachers and just people who were in her lives. And what she said was so impactful. She said, I was given second, third, fourth chances to be successful. She failed out of college, but there was somebody there to help her pick up the pieces and say, okay, let's try it again. And I think we need to give ourselves that grace to have second, third, fourth, fifth, 12th chances. And we need to especially extend that to children who come into our lives with added barriers.
I agree. Thank you, Kate.
So I have to follow that answer. Wow. You know, things to know about homeless students. I think most of us serving in this role were probably never homeless. I realize there probably are some liaisons that were, but I think it's important to just come to the table understanding that we don't understand. We don't know what it's like. We've never experienced what the students are experiencing that we're supporting. And so therefore, I just think it's incredibly important to come to the table listening, because each story, as we just heard, is unique. The reasons for the homelessness, the impact of the homelessness, it's all unique. So I think it's very important to know that for students experiencing homelessness, you need to listen and support. And I guess the other thing I would say is they can do it. They're determined. There's grit there. They've experienced more trauma in their short life than most of the liaisons and teachers have experienced in our longer lives. And so the other thing I would say is with ample support and guidance, they can and have proven to be as successful as any other student. And so those would be the two things maybe I'd want people to know about homeless students.
Thanks, Matt. And I'd like to say that even for those who have experienced homelessness, and I will use myself as an example, as an unaccompanied youth, a teenager, my story is still different than the stories that others are going through. My experiences are different. My support system, lack thereof, whatever, is different. So every student has their own thing, and that's why what Matt is saying is so very important, to always be open-minded and to listen, and be that person who can raise them up. I always say to all of the teenagers that I do outreaches to that I will believe in them until they believe in themselves. And I didn't realize the impact or power those words had. To me, it was just a belief that I had that I wanted to let them know, until years later when students would come back after they had graduated from high school and after they had gone on and lived experiences, and they said, it's because you believed. And I believe that the adults in a student's life are very important. And you can be, anybody that's on here today can be that adult in that person's life. We have a hand raised. And who would that be? Christina Kennedy. Hi, Christina. I think your mic has been released. Go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can. It's good to hear your voice.
Wonderful. Let me turn off the fan. It's like an oven in here. Old buildings, unequal heat distribution. So first of all, Sonia, I have always thought you were fantastic, and it is lovely to hear all these stories that are success stories and encouraging stories. So I just want you to sort of pat yourself on the back and kind of feel that warm and tingly. My question is about those kids who don't make it. First of all, do you have any stories like that? Do you know what that looks like? And secondly, how do you emotionally handle that as a team that works so hard to make things better for these kids? And sometimes, let's be honest, we're all in this kind of work together. It doesn't work out. So those are my two sort of piggyback questions. Do they make sense?
They do make sense. Thanks, Christina. I will open that up to Missy and as well as Kate and Matt and Taylor and Matt Butensky, if you want to add anything. I'll start by saying that if they go to school every day, that's success. If they graduate or get a GED, that's success. What happens afterwards, or what happens if that doesn't happen, that's life. And that happens to students who are not experiencing homelessness, students who have everything given to them. Do we know those stories? Yes. Is it heartbreaking? Of course. I have felt like a failure. I have felt like I have not been enough on several days. But at the end of the day, at the end of the school year, we do what we can. We provide the tools that we can, and we allow those second, third, fourth, fifth, 20th opportunities as they come. I've had students who've come back when they're 19, who dropped out at 15 and said they want to get their GED. Can I help? Absolutely. So it happens.
I would say you have to be careful with not measuring someone else's success against your idea of what success is. So to Sonia's point, I did have a student who my expectation was here for him. I wanted him to go to college. He had an opportunity, post-secondary education in trades. We had it all set up for him and it fell through. He did not follow through on some of the agreements we had. And I was disappointed. I was disappointed as if this was my own child that let this opportunity slip away. But I had to be careful not to want something for him that he didn't want for himself at that time. And I say at that time because I didn't know what was going on in his life at that moment. And he eventually circled back around to me because I feel in this position, I'm not just a liaison until that student graduates. When a student shares some of the most intimate, personal, and vulnerable moments with you, they kind of come under your wing and you create a relationship with them. And so that student was able to reach back out to me after they had graduated and said, okay, now I'm ready. Can we try this again? So I had to go back to that individual who the post-secondary program and say, listen, I'm the homeless liaison. This is my student. Here was the situation he was in. He didn't take advantage of the opportunity that was presented because of these circumstances, but now he's ready. Will you give him that second shot? And I'm very grateful to people who can recognize circumstances in young children's lives, young adults' lives, and provide those second, third, 13th chances, because we've all been blessed with them, so we should all extend them to other people.
Absolutely. All right, so before we continue on this great conversation, I would like to bring on our two panelists, Daphne and Morgan, who are part of the Youth Action Board with Fayette County Community Action Agency. I believe Daphne and Morgan are sharing a screen. So Daphne, Morgan, if you could unmute and talk a little bit about yourself, about your experiences, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, hi, I'm Daphne. Morgan's with me too.
Hello, I'm Morgan.
Hello.
Should I go first with my stories? Okay. So I was experiencing homelessness. My parents got heavily into drugs and just kind of like the wrong scene. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to go actually try and do something with my life. So I was just staying at friends' houses, and a member of the community took me in when I had nowhere else to go. And she helped me get through high school and cosmetology school while I was in high school, because I did a VOTEC program. And so she helped me through all of that. And it took me like a little bit to realize that I was technically homeless, because when I was with her, even though I was like in a tiny little bedroom with her daughter, her 12-year-old daughter, it just kind of, it was a safe place to be for me at that point, which was really good. And the education system, the people in my school, I had a couple people that were just like really close and like helped me get through stuff, helped me be able to focus my goals on doing the best I can. I had my French teacher ran the caring closet, and she let me just order almost $200 worth of clothes and shoes off of Amazon. So I would have like clothes that I could wear for school, because all I had like left was like summer clothes, and you know, schools are rude and don't want shoulders showing. And so I had her, and then my homeroom teacher, she helped me get the stuff I needed for like prom, and she helped me just do whatever I needed. If I needed to just take a minute, I could go to her classroom. Also, I stayed a lot over at cosmetology too, because it was one of my favorite places to be, and I wasn't going to give that up for my parents just not doing good in themselves. So I made that decision, and it actually is leading me here to be here today, which I'm like really like amazed and kind of like confused on like the path I'm actually starting to take, because I'm trying to do a lot more work here with ending youth homelessness, so it's rare and non-reoccurring, is what we like to say. And just like everyone deserves to have a home, and that's just kind of what I want for every single youth, every single person, to have a house first without exceptions or barriers, and that like one person can change one person's life. Like, I don't have to go out and say I'm going to change the world, but I'm going to inspire people to change one person's life, and it just keeps going from there. That's all I got to say right now. But Morgan,
that was great. Or that was that Daphne or Morgan? I'm sorry.
That was Daphne. That's me.
Yeah, Daphne, that was thank you for sharing that. That was very impactful. That's all you have to say was a lot. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, Morgan.
Oh, no problem.
Hi, as you know, my name is Morgan, and I experienced homelessness from July of 2020 to December of 2020. I got into some legal issues at one point, and my family didn't want me living in their household because I had felony charges. They didn't want me living in their household, so they kicked me out. So I got out of jail to like having no home, and I ended up staying couch hopping, if you will. Like at first I didn't have many places to couch hop, so a couple of nights I stayed in a gazebo in Sagertown, and it's like I never really thought of myself as homeless or like anything like that, because like the whole time, like the biggest support I had was my blended case manager. She helped me a lot to get through everything. Like, she was with me through college all the way, like 2 years, maybe 3. She was with me, sticking with it. And I just was really appreciative towards her. So when I was homeless, I was couch hopping a lot. Like I said, Daphne basically took me in at one point because it was starting to get cold outside. So I didn't have like many options as to where I was going to stay unless I wanted to freeze. So I came to Daphne's, and I stayed here a lot, and she kind of took me under her wing. A little chaotic at first, but finally it settled into a spot where in December her other roommate left, and it just came to to the point where we could both afford to live here. And we've been living with each other ever since, and it's worked out really well. I'm just glad that we got everything situated. Chaps also helped when I was homeless. I don't remember what her title is, but her name is Jill, and she's a sweetheart. She works with Chaps, and she worked with me to find housing. And whenever we had issues, like we had an issue with rent, we lost like a whole month's worth of rent one time, and she helped us get it back together so we didn't get evicted. So it's been all right, but I'm really grateful that I've had a lot of people support me, especially Brenda and Jill. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you, Morgan. And for those folks who do not know what CHAP is, could you tell them, please?
Oh yeah, Crawford County. Wait, can you remember what it is?
No, it's not.
It's not.
It's CHAPS. It's an acronym. Oh my goodness, my brain doesn't remember. Hold on, let me look it up.
That's okay. My brain doesn't remember either.
It's a mental health awareness program. I know that part.
Okay, education is a world of alphabet soup. We love to make acronyms. So, but it's an organization that has helped you. When you said that the A and the P stand for awareness program. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
You said you thought that the A and the P stood for awareness?
Oh yeah. So the Crawford County Mental Health, but it's Crawford County Housing and Mental Health Program, but there's like the M is kind of left out.
No,
it's easier to make a CHAPS. I don't know. The acronym's weird, but I love CHAPS. It's a great place to work.
Yeah, our acronym is ECYEH, yeah, so it really doesn't get any more weird. So it's all good. Education alphabet soup. Okay, so if you don't mind, I'm going to ask a couple of questions, and then again to folks in the virtual world, if you have any questions that you'd like us to ask, certainly feel free to put that in the Q&A box or raise your hand and we can release your mic. So one of the questions that I wanted to ask you both was, what do you wish you knew back when you were experiencing homelessness that you know now? And I know that both of you stated that at the beginning you really didn't think about being homeless. Daphne stated that you were someplace safe, which I think is so important to emphasize, that you felt you were somewhere safe, because not a lot of folks are at a place where they are safe when they are experiencing homelessness. So that was very good. And Morgan, stating also that you were kicked out and didn't realize you were homeless because you had people who supported you. So I think that's great that you had that. But what do you wish you knew back then?
So when I was originally kicked out, I didn't know for like quite a few months that CHAPS even existed. Like Daphne was the one who introduced me to all the housing help and such, and I didn't know about it until she told me. I wish it was more like I've seen like little flyers in like my psychiatrist's office where they have the little paper tabs you pull off, but like I never really put any thought into it. So like when I was homeless, I saw them and I was like, but like I wasn't sure if I trusted that sort of help. So I wish I had known like back then that it would have been a lot easier had I like been aware of the services that were available in Crawford County.
And I have a point that kind of jumps off that like we're taught as like people from a very young age that you don't need help till you're at the very rock bottom. Like you're not valid unless you're completely down at the bottom of the barrel. So we've been taught to take care of ourselves and to like not show that vulnerability that we need help. And that's something I wish was more advocated in youth and in schools, that like you can ask for help. It's not embarrassing. It's not bad. It is okay and valid to ask for help, and every single person and every single situation is different and will need different levels of help. And I was just kind of I was just on a meeting for DEI training and privilege and like how like equity and equality and stuff aren't the same. And like I feel like everyone's seen that picture of like the three baseball people that are like looking over the fence, and like we're trying to get rid of that fence completely, so like we can actually all see what's going on without needing to get over the barriers, because honestly the barriers shouldn't be there.
An excellent point. An excellent point. Thank you. So through all of this, what kept you in school? Daphne, you said something that was very key that I thought really spoke a lot to you and possibly the people that were there to help support this. But you said that because you're with someone safe, you didn't realize you were homeless, but you weren't giving up going to school because you loved it, and you weren't giving up what you love because of what your parents were doing. And I thought that was
Yeah, so like my parents, they were just getting into the wrong stuff, doing the wrong things for the wrong reasons, and just getting into themselves and not even like paying attention to my needs. Like I was always a very independent child. I was like took care of myself in one way or another. I'm an only child, so like it was just kind of how things were. And like my parents had me at a very young age, and like those aren't excuses for bad behavior, but like my parents are human. Everybody's human. Everybody makes mistakes, and they ended up right before my 18th birthday, after I'd moved out and everything, after I'd left, they couldn't afford the house anymore, and they moved down to Texas to be closer to my grandma. So they made the decision to actually like move away from the scene that they were in and the bad things, and they actually got help down there from her, and are doing much better now. But like it was also very difficult to like they're my parents. I still love them, and they're halfway across the country. So that was kind of a thing with that. And then like my education, I was very, very into cosmetology while I was in school. Just because like I got to do a lot of the things that I wanted to do in school, but when I went out to the field, it wasn't the same. But that's besides the point. But I was just really close with my cosmetology teacher. I was there every school day for 3 years. You kind of get close to those people, and there is just like anytime I felt like I did want to give up, there were people there that I could just talk to. And that's all I really needed to keep going and to keep motivated in that.
So going back to listening and just having someone listen to you. Thank you. And Morgan, you said that through all of your legal problems, et cetera, that I believe it was Jill you said, but you continue to go to college. What kept you in school? What kept you to continue on, even though you were still experiencing homelessness at the time?
Oh, at the time, I was not actually in school at the time I was homeless.
Oh, okay.
I mentioned in passing that Brenda had been with me through college. I went to college before I was homeless.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Sorry.
No worries. That was my fault for not listening for that detail. But
At least you had like kind of unstable housing when because the college kind of kicked you out a little bit at one point.
I didn't have stable housing in college. Yeah, they did kick me out, and I ended up staying with a friend while I was in college.
So like that technically counts.
Yes, that does count. Daphne, thank you for acknowledging that Morgan still had to go through these struggles while she was in there. I have a feeling that your friendships with each other really help.
Well, we've known each other since elementary school.
Oh, that's wonderful. And you're living together and are happy living together. Sometimes it's hard to live with your friend. So
oh yeah. I was living with a friend before she moved in too, and like it was interesting.
Well, now that the two of you have your own place, like now that you are roommates and you are considered permanently housed, like what was one of the first things that you did in your new home? What was one of the first things that you did that you thought, this is just normal and it's because we have a home?
I mean, like, we have a lot of like crystals and stuff up. Like, we're very spiritual people, so there's just a lot of like crystals and bones and paintings and clutter, and I like thrive in that.
When I first started living here, like the first thing I did was start moving my stuff in, obviously, and I felt more at home like the moment we started putting up like the bookshelves, because I own like over 400 books. So
Oh my
and I'm used to
God.
living
Mhm.
around them. I love living around them.
Yes. Books, not Kindle, books. Oh, girl.
Yes, love books. I have so many of them. It's kind of excessive.
Yes.
But I love living around them, so it kind of gives me a homey feel whenever I'm around them, like the comfort.
I love that. I love that. All right, so we're running short on time, but I want to ask two questions, and one to you, to Morgan and Daphne, and one to Kate and Matt. The question to Morgan and Daphne: what's the most important thing you want people to take away from this today?
Just that what I was saying, like, I always, anytime I speak, am very adamant on that one person can change the system and the world in whatever way they want. Like, even if they don't think so, you're putting an idea in somebody's mind every time you speak of that, like, there's change and it can happen in anyone.
Yes, thank you.
I don't know if you had anything on that.
That's pretty much summarizes it, I guess.
Ditto is what you're saying, Morgan.
Right.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that. And Matt and Kate, to you, what do you want most for your students who are experiencing homelessness besides a home? Because that's the easy answer.
Well, I didn't see Kate unmute yet, so I'll go first there. It varies depending on the needs of each homeless student. But I want them to feel supported. I want them to feel like they have someone to go to. They're not alone. That we got this, right? We got this, and that's I think what's most important is that they know they're not trying to do this all by themselves, but there's a system of people out there who have access to resources that are willing to help, and so I guess that we'll get through it together.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Matt, for giving me a moment to be pensive. It's not often that happens. I think what I would want students to understand is that experiencing homelessness is a period of time in their lives. It's not a permanent label that they will always be homeless. It is situational, and that there are people who will support them. And it's not just the homeless liaison, it's the driver who gets them to school. If they are living across the county, it's the cafeteria worker who is providing them with food. It is the teacher who is saying, you know what, I understand that you're having some difficulty. Let's modify some of your assignments. We do try our very best to provide dignity to students. So it's not some who are experiencing homelessness. It's not something that we advertise, but the people who need to know. And those people real quickly form a network to create an environment for students where they can be successful. So what I want students to know is that it's not forever, and it's definitely a team approach. So there's a lot of people who always have their back to make sure that they can achieve the success that they want to achieve.
Thank you. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Matt. And thank you, Daphne and Morgan, for being part of this panel that we threw together quickly. I would like to thank everyone who is watching in our virtual land. And before we go, I would like to challenge and ask you all to help us be the support for any student who may be experiencing homelessness, to be the ear for these students, to be the shoulder that they may need to cry on. I was very lucky that when I was kicked out of my house periodically, I did have key adults in my life. My coach was fantastic. And because of that, I was able to continue on. As I grew and grew on from there. And what Daphne said, you know, your parents are still your parents, so you're still going to have feelings and all of that. Don't judge. I ask you all to not judge, just to listen to what Matt had continually said from the beginning. As you know, as adults who may be encountering these students who are experiencing homelessness, listen to what they have to say, and then take what you need to give them resources and opportunities to help them succeed, because that's what we're looking to do. We're looking to give them the tools that they need to succeed in life, and what that looks like is going to look like whatever it needs to be. But again, our success, educationally speaking, is they show up to school, and everything from there is just far more cake building. So I challenge all of you to be that starting ripple. Daphne said, you don't know when you're going to be an impact to someone, and you don't know just in saying hi to someone, what that did to that person. You don't know what your smile does to someone. You just don't know. And I think all of us can be that smile, can be that hello. It can be as simple as that, or as complicated as we need it to be. Complicated meaning involved. Years ago, I've been in this job, specifically this job, for 26 years. So I was 25 when I started, just the young buck who thought I could save the world. My father always said, I didn't know what your job was, Sonia, but I told everybody it was to save every child in the world. And I later said, well, can't save everybody, but I'm going to try one child at a time. And when I first heard Liz Murray, she's the student that is known as Homeless to Harvard. Her story is Homeless to Harvard. She said the words, home can be a person. And I thought that was powerful. So I want all of you out there in virtual land and on our panel to know that you can be a person. Morgan alluded to this earlier when she said that Daphne kind of brought her into the fray and saying, hey, you know, let me help you out. But home can be a person. Daphne said that staying with that person made her feel safe. Home is safe. It doesn't have to be that dwelling. We want it to be a dwelling, but home can be a person. So you can be a person to someone. Thank you all for joining us today. It was our pleasure and our privilege to present the original play, I Will Be Your Voice, Stories of Homelessness and Hope, and to have our panelists. Thank you, panelists, Kate, Matt, Daphne, Morgan. I treasure you. I thank you so much for your participation. And I wish everyone to have a fabulous day, and wear red on Friday, folks, and put it on your social media and on our ECYEH Facebook page. And if you have any questions, feel free to email or contact any of us. Thanks, everybody, and have a fantastic day.